Welcome to this volume of Salsa Challenge method of teaching salsa dancing. In this video, we're going to show you something really important. We've danced for a lot of years, and what we found was that there was an element missing, and when we found out how important it was, then it transformed the whole way we teach salsa dancing, and we call that the salsa connection. This is really an obvious thing, and that is when you're dancing socially with somebody, you're connecting with them. And if you don't know how to establish that connection really well, then your dancing is simply not going to work well. So salsa connection is often addressed in a beginning class for about 3 minutes, and then we go on and teach. But we're going to actually make it the centerpiece of all of our teaching. So this video is really fundamental to give you the foundations for this. The salsa connection is interactive, as all partnering is. It's an art and a skill. And so it takes a lot of rehearsal and a lot of work in order to get this where you feel really great about it. Since it's interactive, it involves the follows and the ladies as much as the leads and the men. So our teaching has shifted a lot from which used to be on moves and getting the guy to know how to execute it. And now it's really on the connection. So everything we teach, all the videos that follow this, the salsa connection will be fundamental to that. So we're going to introduce it to you now and give you the basic elements, and then through the entire series will depend on referring to the salsa connection throughout, so that you'll understand the lead and follow, the art of partnering. So it's fundamentally important. A couple things just to mention here at the beginning. That is, if you've danced a little bit, you will probably recognize what happens when you don't have the salsa connection. And that is, you get ready to start doing a turn, and then you start something else, and there's this clunk where the lead starts doing one thing and the follow is going a different direction, and it just falls apart. So it's jerky, it's uncomfortable, it's dangerous, it doesn't look pretty.
It's loose.
It's either loose or too solid. It's like it's just not connecting right. So that typically what we do is when we're teaching and a couple that's learning, if a move fails, then we'll ask them, okay, let's evaluate your salsa connection. And when we do that, almost always it's traceable to that connection. So let me talk just a little bit more about it being a skill. And then we'll move right on to talk about the various elements of this. Remember, it's not an element, one of our 10 elements. It's a skill that you're going to work on throughout all of your salsa dancing. And the thing that you're going to be rewarded by is you're going to be able to dance confidently, smoothly. It's really fun. You feel really obviously connected to your partner, and everything changes. So even if you're doing simple moves but you're connected, it's a great feeling, and it's really important. One other thing I just have to mention as well, and that is it's partnering skills. So it's how do I relate to someone else? And I feel like it's really important, just as posture is important to your self-confidence in and out of dancing, then connectivity skills are really important outside of dancing as well. And that is, do I know how to connect with somebody else? And if I do, then my whole life is going to be happier. So it's a great thing for us to think about. So we'll teach you some of these basic elements, and then you'll be able to practice these in all of your salsa dancing. So there are a few elements to the salsa connection, and we just want to go over them fairly straightforward. The first one, even before we physically connect, there is a connection in our body language. And we know body language is really important, so that, like if I'm sitting down and we're having a conversation and I'd like to end it, all I need to do is to sort of start getting up. And then Jenny will realize, oh, he's done. I'm out of here. So just body language is really important. That means posture, that means confidence, that means presence. But you can actually lead moves without ever touching. So if I'm here and I want to start a basic, and I'm not even going to touch Jenny at all, if I simply, you can watch my body as I get ready to step forward, is I have a little counter movement, and then I'm going to step forward. So Jenny sees, okay, he's coming at me. Even before that, if she's watching me, she'll see, okay, he's coming forward. This is convention. I'm going to do my basic. So here's the rules that I typically suggest, and that is leads. You can't be wimpy about that. If it's sort of like, I don't know whether I'm going to start or not, then the follow's never going to pick this up. You have to say, I'm starting. Okay? And it has to be really clearly there. In my body, I'm going to step forward. Here it is. Okay? If you have that good intention, that's about all you need. Follows. What I suggest is pay attention. Pay attention to the lead. And sometimes I describe it's not watching his feet, it's watching his upper body. And sometimes I refer to that as the salsa aura. So that you're just going to be looking at the upper part of the lead's body. He's going to step forward, and there you have it.
And one thing I like to kind of visualize as a follow is I'm not just picking up signals with my hands or maybe my eyes or something. Rather, I have little sensors, like little eyeballs all over my whole body. So I can see if his leg is stepping forward or his body or any element. It's not just what's happening up here. So keep that in mind. Try to open up your whole...
So you're connected actually together right here, and you should feel that connection. So it's something you can actually palpably feel. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about this. Leads, when you get ready to lead, you're going to step forward with intention. If you're going to do, let's just talk about the first three basic, that's the element one, that's the basic forward-backward. But if I do cucaracha, then notice that if I'm going to step to the side, it's really almost impossible for me to do that without body preparation. When I pick up this foot to step, then in order to have my weight firmly here, my body's going to shift just a little bit to my right, just ever so slightly before I step. So I'm here, I shift and step. Now, so leads, all you have to do is simply just do it with intention. Follows?
You'll notice if you're in one direction, then when there is during the pause, when he's getting ready to take his next direction, you'll notice his body will begin to move in a different way. And if you're paying attention, then you should be able to pick up on that.
Exactly. Pay attention. So if we're in a basic 1, 2, 3, and I go to cucaracha, I stop here and step to the side. And ladies, you should always be able to pick that up. Now, let me talk about if I'm doing a basic here, and I want to do a cumbia. So I stop here. I'm going to go back with my left foot. Now, notice my shoulders are already turning. My foot is going to follow here to come back. So, ladies, if you're paying attention, you'll see that. Be able to do a cumbia right straight out. So I'll just mix up 2 or 3 here.
And one thing, I don't know if you've ever played this game before, where you have a partner and you pretend like you're looking in a mirror and you mimic each other. It's really, really similar to that. So if your lead is moving this way, then you can feel that, you'll respond to that. If it begins to move this side, mirror that. The cumbia is awesome because the shoulders just open up, and you can just, as soon as you see that happening, you do that too.
Okay, so we'll just play a couple bars of music here, switch around, and you can just see how there's a connection without any hand physical connection whatsoever. Okay, so you can see how easy that is. Just a few little moves there so that you'll get an idea of that. So just the first element then of the salsa connection is body language. The second element is touch. This is really, really important. When we first start learning something, then we think we've just got to hold on so tightly, and we feel like we're going to lose our partners. Well, that is the exact opposite of what you should do. So let's talk about the connection here. By convention, lead's hands are up, palm up, follows down. Okay? Then we're going to, let me just turn your hand this way, Jenny. Leads, their middle finger just goes to her middle finger where the palm and the finger meet. If you feel more comfortable with a couple of fingers, that's fine. I tend to use just one. Now follows, what do you do with your hands?
Well, actually, I move my hands around quite a bit because this is a pivotal connection, and I want to be prepared for any angle that we're taking. So if he's going to turn his hands to the side, I'm going to turn my hands and meet him. Or if he decides to curl and push with the back of his hands, I want to have my palm available to be pushed. Now, that doesn't mean I need to like grasp on. I just need to move with his hands as a follow. In general, you want to place your hands where your lead's hands are all the time, no matter where they are, even if it seems like a really bizarre thing that you've never done before, like maybe you wouldn't expect to be like in this position. But if you let go, keep your hands where his hands are, then you're going to follow through stuff you never thought you could do, or you just never imagined in your mind before, because that's following.
Okay, so hand position is important. The connection is important. Then the tension between us is simply what has to be negotiated all the time. We'll talk a lot about this on this video. So if I just have one point of contact here, then I can turn my hand any way and we can keep together. If I'm gripped on, then it becomes really difficult.
And can be painful.
And it can be painful. So you don't want to do that. Or at that point, you have to like switch your hand around to turn. But if it's simply the one finger here, it's just a like little pivotal connection. It's very easy to do that, and so you work on that. Another thing that sometimes I talk about is what you want to do is communicate a tremendous amount of information about your whole body, the music, your attitude, everything you want to do, just through mostly just this connection right here. So this is like fine cloth. And if you want to really sense fine cloth, then you're just going to touch it lightly to appreciate how rich it is. Where if you have fine cloth like velvet and you just press on it really hard, you're never going to really get that wonderful sensuous feeling. So that's what you want here, is just this nice little touch connection. So we're going to also, through the rest of the video, we're going to talk a lot about leads, knowing where the hand should be in order to lead moves really effectively. And so we'll be teaching that a lot as we go through. Okay, so that's the aspect of touch. This is the element that we're talking about. Touch that's really fundamental. It's where your hand is, where the connection is. Now then, what I want to talk also about is just the tone. And Jenny was talking about this some. In a lot of beginning classes, we have people just like push into each other and move away. So push in and move away with this notion that the hand stays sort of where it should be, and we negotiate connecting with one another. We can also pull apart from one another and push with the back of our hands, pull, and notice our hands just stay connected there. So we never use thumbs. But we're just pushing and pulling against one another, and that's our connectivity. So it's typically push against push, pull against push, pull with equal force. So if I push really hard, then Jenny's going to push really hard. If I pull really hard, then she has to pull really hard, and that keeps our hands in the center. Now you can't, in salsa dancing, where there's, say, 180 beats a minute, okay, you can't brain process this hand connection. Happens too fast. From your hand to your head and back to your hand takes about a half a second or something like that. You don't have that much time. So it has to become an embodied skill. It has to be like a reflex reaction. And that takes time. So be forgiving with yourself and do a lot of like drills. But this is a basic thing. It's push against push, pull against pull. It's not one person dragging the other around. It's always negotiating that connection so that you're equal to one another. You're pulling, pushing, connecting, and you need to feel that.
And I think a lot of follows that I have danced with, it's almost like they think in the dance they're just being moved around. And like you can see, if you're being turned, the follow is just going to maybe have her arm in here.
Yeah, so if I do this and Jenny has no reaction, then her arm has to wrap clear around here before I can start to get her to turn.
And so, and also like even in just starting into the basic, if the lead pushes and you just let your hands be pushed, your arms are just going to go. So I have nothing to give back. And I often tell fellows, hey, give yourself a nice frame. Like, look out for your personal space. Give yourself something to be, a part of. And don't just let that collapse all the time. And that is part of your tone. You want to keep your arms nicely toned, not flexing like super rigid or just noodle arms. You want to have them toned nicely.
Okay, so now we're going to break down the lead follow. Now notice I call it lead/follow. So it's all one part. But it has little subparts to it. And that's so. And if you didn't have some idea about this, there wouldn't be any fluidity. So there has to be a little warning. Oh, there's going to be a lead coming up here. You're relaxed. Everything's like, oh, I better be ready here. I need to connect in a more active way. So the lead follow has 3 elements here. One is what we call the lead preparation. So if we're in basic here, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and I want to do an open break, I lift my hands up here, and I call that a lead prep. So it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, prep. Okay? And that comes before the 1 count when I'm going to actually execute it. Now when I prep, then by lifting my hands up, follows, you're going to say, whoa, that's different. I need to engage. Okay? So we'll have a tiny fraction of a second when here we say, okay, I've got a live one on the line. I can feel she's connected to me. I can feel that. And all I've done is push a little bit and feel her push back. And then follows, you're going to know, oh, he pushed on me, I pushed back. We're really connected. And then I can execute that. Okay? So what happens in an open break is a really good one to give us that feel, because we're going to be in basic, we're relaxed, but we're connected, and push, pull, and back. And push, pull, and back. And push, pull, and back. Now, if you could think of this, when we go 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and push, pull. Now our hands are going to stay pretty much where they are, right in the middle. And if they don't stay right in the middle, that means we don't have an equal connection. So if I push too early, her hands are going to go back. If she's too stiff, then my hands are going to go forward. So that the test of this is this smooth? It's like a bungee cord. You're going to push and pull, and it's like elastic on both ends. So that's what you want to get. That's the art of partnering here, is really to have that connectivity. So we're here, and we do the lead prep, negotiate, and execute. Okay? And you can actually feel all 3 elements of that, even though this takes place within like half a count in the music, which is a tiny amount of time. But first you'll want to do it slowly, then you'll begin to build it up. So I would suggest as a skill drill then, doing the basic and an open break. So on the open break, you're actually going to push, and then note your hand stops and follows. If you didn't have elasticity here, then your body would go backwards, and it would be pulled like that. So when I push, pull, see how that would work? So you have to have it both. You have to push against the lead to make the body go back, and then pull forward so you can feel that. So we have push, pull. So that open break gives you a really great sense of if you have that feeling. Your arms never want to go out. They never want to be stiff so they don't move at all, but they're pliable, they're connecting with your partner, and that's the art of leading and following. So we're here, 1, 2, 3, 5, and push, pull, and back.
And I like to say for follows that I've been working with on connectivity that it's not something that you just turn on when you feel the prep. You're not just like no arm connection at all, and then be like, oh, I gotta do something. It's something that you are engaged in from the minute you start dancing with somebody until the very end. It doesn't just, you don't just sort of zone out and be like, oh, you're on all the time.
Exactly.
Is turned on.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really fundamental. So, okay, that's the element of touch. We talked about body language. We're not touching. We talked about touch. That gives us this sense of the actual physical experience of the lead follow. Now I want to talk about eye connection. When we learn to dance, we often think we're going to look at our feet. And so we're down here and look at our feet. Now, we're not connecting to one another at all when we do that. Another thing is that in our culture, often eye connection is a little scary. And so we tend to like dance with somebody and look around somewhere else and we never look at them. Well, when we do that, we're not really connecting with them. And so what I would suggest that you do is this little exercise. So start out, if you know just any little basic bit of dancing at all, and just kind of like look somewhere else. You know, you're just like, okay, I don't know, whatever. I'm going to do an open break. Okay, whatever. And you never look at your partner. Then, once you've done that, turn to your partner, make some eye contact, smile a little bit, and show that you have some energy, that you're happy to be here dancing, and then dance with them and connect through the eyes. Now, sometimes too much eye contact is too much. So be a little careful with that. But certainly, if you make eye contact, you're saying, hey, I'm dancing with you, not somebody else. I want to dance with you. I'm having fun dancing with you. This is a great thing. Let's do it together. We're going to enjoy this dancing. And that's a really important connection. A little trick that you can also try is this. Let's say you don't feel terribly confident. You're really not connecting with the person terribly well, so you don't really know what to do. Well, use a little trick. Say, connect with the eyes. So when your partner's eyes go by, make a little contact, smile a little bit, and what typically happens then is your bodies connect because you've connected with your eyes. And it helps a lot. So connecting with the eyes, really important.
Smiling, I think big time, especially at the beginning when we're all learning, you know, maybe everyone's feeling a little nervous, and that just nice smile can break the ice. You contribute something to the dance with that smile. It makes you fun, more friendly. It makes the energy. I've done it a million times. I'm like, say I'm like a little bored or whatever. If I just smile at my partner, they're like, oh, she smiled at me. And it's like a whole other dance to come into it. And when we were just doing it just now, we smiled at each other. I immediately started, you know, kind
your
of
body
playing around
up
a little bit more.
Yeah, that's
and
so cool.
You have some more fun kind of playful elements that get introduced.
Okay, so that's another element, eye contact. Another element, I think this is the fourth element, is what I call entrainment. What this means technically is, you know, when you're walking down the street with somebody and you're talking, you're not paying any attention to anything, and then you realize, well, wait a minute, we're stepping in exactly the same, at the exact same time, and we're staying side by side. So that means that your stepping is rhythmically together. And that even if one is really tall and one is short, you're different sizes, you have different strides, you have adjusted the stride of your step to the length of one another so that you stay together. And dancing is exactly the same thing, except instead of walking side by side, you're doing it facing one another. So that what has to happen then is you need to be able to feel in this, where is the other person stepping, so that the length of my step and the rhythm of my step corresponds exactly with my partner, and that's connecting. So if you don't think about entrainment, one of you is taking really big steps, one of you taking little bitty steps, or you're not stepping at pretty much the same time, then it doesn't feel connected.
Well, one big indicator is that you're probably going to be stepping on each other's feet.
That's right, and that happens. So a couple of suggestions I have here. If you can get where there is a mirror on the side, and get with your partner, and then simply step and look at yourself in the mirror. so that you'll see, okay, we're staying the same distance apart. Another way is just to put your hand over and say, am I staying the same distance apart, or am I jerking out? Okay, so I'm not quite the same length. So you'll feel that. So you'll see that. Another thing I would suggest for follows, and that is simply concentrate on this connection, on the hand connection. And then just close your eyes and imagine where is your partner's feet as you step. So closing your eyes, then just feel where is your partner stepping. And typically that will help you as a follow entrain with the lead. Okay?
It also helps your sensors that we were talking about earlier, because you're really sensing your lead in a much different way. I mean, you can actually feel what they're doing, like either through the tension in the hands or whatever. So.
That's right. Okay, so moving right on now, the next element of connection is the music and the rhythm. If you're not hearing the music the same way, if you're trying to dance on a different beat, then no matter how else you're connected, you're going to feel that little jarring feel between one another. So here's the basic kind of rules that I think you should follow. And that is, the lead should be listening to the music, and the beat of the music should be pulling the lead's feet into the floor. So that means the lead is on the beat or ever so slightly behind the beat. So it's like the beat is pulling my foot into the floor, and therefore I'm following the music. Then for the follow, she is following the lead ever so slightly. So there's this tiny, tiny little bit of a fraction of the feel of where your footwork is compared to one another. And if you can learn that, and follows, often what you have to do is be patient. Be patient.
I talk to many, many fellows, and they just straight up say, I have control issues. And I see it a lot. They hear what they believe is where they should be standing on the beat or dancing on the beat, and they want to make the guy dance on that beat. Well, that's not following, and the lead never has a chance to actually lead. And so I tell the follows, try to let it go. Just let it go. Because they're like, oh, I have trouble with the timing here and there. It's like, you need to dance with your partner, and your partner's the one who's dancing to the music. So you can't all be fighting or trying to take control of that element.
Yeah, if for a lead, if a follow doesn't want to be just a little behind, then every move is clunky and really difficult. Follows, you might also simply just think about it as, this is a challenge for me to feel where I am connected with my partner in the music.
And with every single partner that you have, everybody dances differently and feels differently within a dance. And I think as a follow, your challenge becomes, how can I feel out this lead? Where is he dancing? What is he using to communicate? Is it his hands, his body? How is it working? And how can I make this dance the most lovely dance I've ever danced by my skills with following? So.
Yeah. So, okay, that's one more element. There's one final one, and I just feel it's really important to talk about this. And that is, it's just simple etiquette. I talk to so many dancers who say, oh, I tried salsa a few years ago, and people were so rude to me and so mean to me that I just gave it up. And so I'm going to try to do it again. So the very important thing, I think, is that this is social dance. We're there to enjoy being together with one another. Anybody that you dance with, you should be polite to, and you should not be coaching them all the time or criticizing them all the time or shaking your head or rolling your eyes or deserting them on the dance floor or any of those kinds of things. It's way better to simply, when somebody asks you to dance, to simply say, no thank you, I don't care to dance right now. That's much kinder than to dance and then roll your eyes and criticize and do all those kinds of things. I think that is not really appropriate. So, ladies, if you don't feel like dancing with somebody, just say no thank you, and that's polite, and that's okay.
And guys, if you end up dancing, if you think your partner's not doing what you want them to do, you don't sit there and say, okay, if you could only dance different from what you are doing, then I would be able to have a great dance with you, because that's very kind of insulting and rude. So
exactly.
There's a couple, lots of typical things. That is a really typical thing, to have people try to instruct each other
That's right.
Unless you have that agreement beforehand, it's probably not good practice to do that with like somebody you don't know.
Yeah, I have sort of 2 rules for guys, and that is never ever blame your partner, even to yourself, for something that didn't go right. And particularly never say to them, well, if you would just do such and such, then that would have worked for me. That never goes over. I've never heard a woman yet say, oh, I just love it when a guy tells me that. I mean, they hate it, absolutely hate it. The second thing is, do not instruct your partner. I've seen so often that the lead will actually say to the follow, okay, now I'm going to do a double turn, or I'm going to do a cross body, or to even worse than that, stop and say, here's how you do that. If you can't lead it, don't do it. Save that kind of stuff for dance classes. Dance classes are great times to do that.
Well, and even in a dance class, we often tell people when they're learning something, get a feel for your partner, establish a great connection with them, and then try some moves. Like, say you want to do something more difficult, work it up. Like, do a couple of this, do a couple of that, and then try your hard move. Don't just start right in on it and maybe injure your follow in the process. That's not a very good connectivity.
Okay, so those are the elements of Salsa Connection. Remember, we teach everything from this point on in terms of Salsa Connection. So every lead follow is to say, okay, exactly where is the lead prep? Where is the negotiation of the connection? And where is the execution? And we have found in our teaching this that it works so well. And everybody's like, yes, why didn't I know about this before?
And I think one way of understanding, what is it? What are you guys really talking about? Go look at some videos of salsa dancing, and when you see people that are just so great at dancing, and you're like, wow, that is awesome. It just looks like they're just not even hardly,
Exactly.
How do they do that? What's the magic of that? How does she know that he wants her to spin 20 times? This is the connectivity. There's a lot of communication happening there, and that's what we all want as dancers. We want to be able to do that instead of saying, okay, I did my right turn and I did my left turn and now I'm going to do my, that's not as lovely, I don't think.
Yeah, the key word is magic.
Exactly.
Salsa Connection is magic.
It's true.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
mirada que mata y hasta pienso que tortura. Solo con el corazón, el corazón me pide ayuda. Se acelera más mi palpitar cuando me saluda. Este chico es mío, mío, que me quedo muda. Está tan bueno que cuando lo veo olvido todo. Me olvido de todo, me olvido de todo. Está tan bueno que hasta olvido todo. Me olvido de todo, me olvido de todo. Dice que en este fin de semana me va a dar una sorpresa. ¿Será que por fin él me quiere? Hombre, presenta la esposa y se me acaba la fiesta. Tan bueno que hasta olvido todo. Me olvido de todo, me olvido de todo. Tiene unos labios hermosos de un caminar, que para el tráfico y todo el mundo lo quiere mirar. Con sus ojitos abiertos de par en par, que me mire para decir